from what we saw at a minicamp, the big question, I think, over the team is how serious can this quarterback competition really be once we get into training camp between Cam and Mac Jones? We've talked about this subject multiple times already on the Monday show, on the Tuesday show. Right. We didn't talk yesterday about the Wednesday practice where Cam had his best practice of minicamp and really looked like he was in command and looked like the type of quarterback you would expect in a shorts and helmets practice out of a starting NFL quarterback, going 17 for 21, really dominating 11 on 11s. But do we still feel the same? Do we still feel the same way that Mac Jones can make this a legitimate quarterback competition?
I still feel the way I have since they picked him. I think he can make it feel like it is. I think he could maybe even be the better quarterback to the eye test. But Cam Newton starting week 1. They value experience too much at that position to start a rookie there. I truly believe it. That's why Stidham didn't start last year. Bill didn't want to go to a quarterback while the team was teetering, who had never, played a serious NFL snap before. He played mop-up time, but he'd never played a serious NFL snap. And look, eventually you got to get the guy going, right? I just don't think they do it week 1. I don't think they do it within the first month. I know people have pointed to the Brady game. I don't think it happens. And that's not to say, I think Cam's this amazing quarterback. I think Cam has had his moments, and I think he'll be capable, but I just don't see, based on history, I don't see this team starting a rookie quarterback, no matter what Mac does in training camp.
I don't see him starting week 1 either, and I think Cam has done enough in terms of what he did last year and what he's done in these 6 OTA practices or minicamp practices that we've been at to at least say, okay, he can be somebody that can start this year, start the season at least. If things go awry, then maybe Mac gets thrown in there. But I think one of the things that we get the most out of these mini camp practices, because you do have to teeter along that line of you don't want to look in too much into these 3 practices without contact, without pads. We have this conversation all the time as well. And I think the one thing that you do get out of these practices is that these 3 days in OTAs in general in the spring is all about installing your basic fundamental principles of your offense, right? What is your basic passing system? What are the basic 4 or 5, 6 plays, maybe sometimes more in Josh McDaniels' case because his playbook is so large, but what are the handful of plays that you want to be able to say, this is our foundation, this is what we run, this is what we are, this is our identity? And when you go out there and you watch these practices, so much of what they do is the quick game, right? So much of it is just hit the top of the drop, make a decision with the football, get the ball out quickly, and put it in the hands of the receivers to run with it after the catch, right? A lot of these vertical routes in Josh McDaniels' system, unless you're backside one-on-one and you have that true pre-snap look of being a one-on-one matchup, most of the vertical routes are clearing out space, right? They want to take the top off the defense to open up the underneath, and getting to those quick throws underneath quickly and putting the ball in positions for those receivers to run after the catch with the ball in their hands is the number one thing that I saw out there these 3 days that Josh McDaniels still values the most. And if you look at that sort of quarterback, and then the other thing I would say McDaniels values the most is hitting moving targets, moving horizontally to the line of scrimmage, right? So crossing routes, dig routes, things like that, where the receivers are moving across the field and you have to hit them on the run. And you don't want to throw low, you don't want to throw high, you don't want to throw behind them. You want to run it into the yards after the catch, and that's how they create those yak opportunities. And all those types of things, the quick game, the horizontal moving receivers, Mac Jones is just a better stylistic fit for that type of offense. So do I think that Mac Jones is going to start right away? I don't. But do I think that Mac has solidified himself as a nice fit in their future plans from these 3 days, in the 3 days that we saw before that in OTAs? Absolutely. And I think that's even something that Cam has sort of identified and sort of on Tuesday it was, he owned up to it and said it was the right pick, right? He was the best player available. Right. I 110 support that. I understand he's the future and see that he's going to be the future of this organization. So when you look at what Josh McDaniels wants in a QB, the quick decision-making, the accuracy within 20 yards, the ability to hit a moving target horizontally coming across the formation, Mac Jones checks all of those boxes, and it's always been sort of a weird stylistic fit from a passing game perspective with Cam Newton, who kind of wants to be able to let things develop a little bit more down the field, take some shots down the field vertically, and sort of hold the ball in the pocket just for that extra half a beat to become a playmaker. And what happens is when you do that, then that underneath coverage sort of closes down on those little quick hitting routes that McDaniels wants to run. And then the yards after the catch aren't as available to you because the ball's not coming out as quickly as you want it to. So is Mac going to start right away? I still say no, but do I think that Mac is going to start sooner rather than later? I say yes, just because of the things I just mentioned about sort of this stylistic fit of what McDaniels wants to do. And we had Tim Jenkins on, what was that, a month ago now, Alex? And he mentioned that Josh McDaniels runs Josh McDaniels' offense, right? McDaniels, especially in the passing game, is not going to revamp his system and his playbook for Cam Newton. He's just not going to. So if he's not going to change and adapt to what Cam does best in the passing game, and he's going to stick to his roots, then Mac's the guy.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying that he can't start this year. I just think it's, it's not just overcoming the gap between him and Cam. I think it's just with how much they value experience, it's getting to that point where, he just has to prove to them he can handle the situation. I don't think he could just be better than Cam. I think he has to be significantly better. And I'm not saying he can't get to that point. I don't think there's enough time between now and week 1 for that to happen.
Yeah, and there's also we haven't even got into run game stuff yet because they don't have pads on, so we're not really in the point of the offseason where they're installing run game stuff. That's a whole nother conversation, right? About what Cam brings in terms of a design quarterback runner, a threat to run the football from the quarterback position. That's sort of how I felt about the Jarrett Stidham Cam Newton competition last summer, was that the Patriots said, from a passing game perspective, maybe they're about even, but as an athlete, Cam just brings so much more to the table. Then you add on to that the leadership and the intangibles and stuff like that Cam brings to the huddle. It just was overwhelmingly favored for Cam in all those types of areas: leadership, experience, athleticism, and the ability to run with the football. All those types of things, I think, added up to Cam being the overwhelming favorite, and obviously the easy decision over Jarrett Stidham. But can Mac be good enough as a passer to sort of outweigh the fact that Cam is a dominant runner still, I would say, even at this point of his career?
Yeah, and again, that's where it goes to, it's got to be, he has to be exponentially better. I think it's going to look like a competition to us. I think internally it's not going to be as much of a competition at first.